I think a lot of things that we tend to ignore just because we get into the day to day is if we just focus, we can see the goodness of God every day in our lives. I woke up this morning. You know what? You did, but that's a blessing. It seems like the older I get, and I wake up in the middle of the night or I wake up before the alarm goes off, and I have a few extra moments, I'm like, thank you for waking me up so I can have a little extra time to pray this morning, just to talk and converse with the Holy Spirit. It's such a blessing and a good way to start your day, conversing with the Lord. But there's the small things in life that I think we ignore that just shows His goodness. The laughter of our kids, seeing someone that's had a rough life get better, things starting to change around, and I know the world and sin can distract us from that, but I think it's a good spiritual practice is to start noticing the little things of the Lord.
Our culture drives us away from gratitude. Gratitude is step one to figuring out that the Lord really is providing all these wonderful things. And it's as simple as the sun is shining on my skin. There's a really good quote that we can be grateful that the entire human population exists because it rains and there's 8 inches of topsoil. And the thought that our entire life is contingent on those things in this real world is nuts.
Yeah.
The plants and animals that we consume the plants. We consume the animals that consume the plants, and the whole cycle is
It's just a circle of life. It's a
circle of life.
Well, you've probably had the change from working to being at the house now.
Ooh.
Do you look back and like, I was so distracted by work, I was starting to miss some of this stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. When I look back now, it was one of those, you kind of wish you had listened to people way before than I did before then.
Somebody's Star Wars going off.
Yeah,
That was really good background
That's my
music.
favorite.
School's calling me.
John Williams.
I wish I had listened to the doctors way sooner than I did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Stubborn.
Stubborn.
I'm stubborn.
But what is it? How are you seeing the goodness of God more every day? Now that those distractions are away, especially with work, because we can get, as men, because we want to provide and be responsible, we can get so bogged down into work mode that everything else starts to take a back burner.
In the realm of the goodness of God, it's the small things that I'm able to do now
Mm-hmm.
compared to when I was just so stressed out with work.
Mm-hmm.
Taking that moment of prayer time where it was tough to find those moments before. Like, to be able to just stop and listen to a good song that's on the radio, I didn't have time before.
Or to have more patience with the kids, right? It's all of.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one.
And we just had, our oldest had a bit of a life-changing accident.
Yeah.
If I were still working, I don't know how we would have swung dealing with that. Like, I'm home and I've been able to help with that accident. I mean, that's...
He pretty much wrapped himself in a motorcycle around a tree.
Yeah. It's not been a great situation, but I've been home to deal with that.
And your son gets to see his dad be there for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you were still working, he would be there. You know what I mean? So
it'd have been the old days of Dad going in early, coming home late, and Mom would be dealing with all of it herself.
There's little things too, like one of these kids goes to school with our kids, but they have to drive and pick them up and stuff. So like about every day or so, he'll stop by and we'll sit and just shoot bull on a porch, man. It's like, okay, we have time for friends again.
Yeah.
And it's since in the last 3 weeks I've been incredibly busy with my daughter, and I mean it's amazing that when you have that much interaction with somebody again, it's like, dude, okay, cool. Like you and Tanya have hung out around the table. They would come by at lunch for some reason and just hang out and talk for an hour, and it's like, wow, this is what time gives us. You have the ability to connect with people. It's amazing. We get so overburdened with all the outside stuff.
And time has been from the goodness of God.
yes.
I until this point in my life, I've never had time. I've literally worked my entire life hardcore.
Yeah.
Like, we Bryans aren't known for much, but by golly, we're hard workers.
Well, that's been a huge.
Some of
transition,
you.
man.
I'm just kidding. Well, and it takes a lot. You know what? I didn't mean to say it takes a lot. It just takes practice in experiencing His goodness. I think it's Psalms 34, taste and see the goodness of the Lord. Make it a point to go out and focus on the goodness of what God has done. Focus on those blessings. Focus on those moments. You know, it's not always the easiest, and it doesn't always feel good. And that's life. That's the sin world, the sin nature that we live in. But it takes a good disciplined mind just to focus on the goodness of God. Even if it's as simple as He woke you up today. That's a blessing. Count it. And count every single blessing because He's worthy of it.
I like thinking about the things we take for granted. Like, we get to turn our air conditioning and heating system on in this country with a push a button.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to build a fire in the wintertime. I push a button and a fire happens in a box and it blows warmth into my
Yeah, but
house.
fires are fun.
I do.
Fires are
I
fun.
have to build a fire.
You know what, Jared? You live in the middle of nowhere. I don't know. I'm shortly to be behind you.
And so, but I mean, yeah, we'll jump into it now because I love that statement. Is God's goodness doesn't depend on our circumstances. Well, it's a pretty prideful thought to think God's only good if my life is good. Well,
If I get what I want.
yeah, you need to bring yourself down a notch and become humble. God's goodness does not depend on our circumstances, and we can tie that in later with Christ and why He came.
I'll jump on that one.
Good.
My life's an utter nightmare to most people's eyes, with everything that we've got going on. But you know what? Like you said a little bit ago, I wake up every morning. God's good. He got on to me the other day. We were standing in line at a viewing of a funeral, and everybody's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm okay." And he's like, "You need to tell people you're thriving." I'm like, "I'm not going to lie to these people."
You're not lying.
No, I'm not going to tell them I'm thriving. I'm going to say I'm okay. But through the goodness of God, I'm okay.
But without the Lord,
I
without the Lord,
I wouldn't be okay.
right. But because you have the Lord, you're thriving
I'm okay.
compared to most people.
But in all honesty, though, without Christ, I couldn't imagine where I would be. Without Christ, I wouldn't be okay. I would probably be in this utter pit of despair and agony and torment. But with Christ, I am okay.
And you could see, you know it now. Take Jesus, take Christ out of the situation. You would want to isolate yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You would want to be alone, and we've already talked about that. We know that when the enemy can get us isolated and get us alone, we become more vulnerable. Read all of 1 Kings for examples on that, especially with Elijah. That the goodness of God, though, makes you, hey, I still have responsibilities. I still have a duty to my family, to my friends, and it gives you a purpose to get up and keep going.
Without the goodness of God in my life, I would probably fall into deep, dark depression. I wouldn't want to leave the house. I wouldn't want to talk to my friends. I wouldn't want to do anything. I would just sit there and sulk all day long. Oh, woe is me. Gloom and despair and agony on me.
And then your health gets worse because of it.
Yep.
It's a domino effect of what sin does through the attacks of the enemy when he can take our eyes off of God.